Alright, Pritzker, this is objective 102. Let's see if I can reach it. Students will be able to place and order. So place and order integers on the number line. I got lazy, so I just put hashtag for number. So students will be able to place and order integers on the number line. It's getting erased, so get that down quickly. So starting in her first video today, Miss Hyder's actually going to join me for the lesson. We get to do it all together.
Hey guys.
So for step 1, don't be confused by the directions. When it says order the number lines by 1, 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s, it actually just means the first number line is just going to be ordered by, like, numbered by 1s, this one by 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s, so on and so forth, okay? We're going to do this quickly. If you want to, you can pause the video or follow on to the first bit. So, for example, this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. If you look at Miss Hyder's side, she's doing the negative size number line. For the second part, it's by 2s, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Should move all the way up until 20. Same idea here, but now we're going by 3s. Not sure how well you can see the numbers. I know they're tiny, but recognize this is 3, 6, 9, 12. And same thing on the negative side. Negative 3, negative 6, negative 9, negative 12, so on and so forth. These last ones will be 4s and by 5s. So notice it ends in 50, 40, 30, thinking by 3s, 4s, and 5s. Feel free to pause the video now if you're a little behind. Make sure all of your number lines are labeled correctly. We're going to move on to step 2. If you look at step 2, once they're all labeled, we're actually just going to plot those values on each number line. Okay, so we'll start with number 1. They start pretty easy, okay? So negative 5.
We can plot it here on the 1 scale. We could plot it here, but we would have to estimate if this is 0 and this is negative 2, this would have to be negative 1. In between negative 2 and negative 4, this would have to be negative 3. And in between negative 4 and negative 6, this right here would have to be negative 5.
Now if we go to 1, 1's pretty easy. You have the option, this is like your personal preference, you can plot it exactly on the line. You can also do it above. Miss Hyder and myself don't personally prefer that, we like to put it right on the line, but you do have that option available. We're going to plot the rest, but we're going to pause when we get to negative 15. So Miss Hyder will take the negatives, I'll have the positives. We're going to plot all the way up to negative 15. So I see 8 is right here.
Negative 2 is right here.
I have 0, that's our starting value.
Negative 10 here.
And now if you pause for a second, like, we're at negative 15. And you might be thinking, like, wait, like, that's not on the number line, but that's not entirely true. If you look at negative 10, like, we could easily extend that even farther. We could make, a dash for negative 11, negative 12, negative 13.
And that arrow actually means that it does go on forever, all the way to negative infinity.
So we're actually going to plot negative 15. Like, we could estimate it to be more or less negative 11, negative 12. All the way out there to negative 15. Same idea with 12. I'm going to skip these two for a second. If I have 12 right here, like, you might be thinking, I can't plot 12, but we totally can. Just like Ms. Hyder said, this arrow means it goes on forever. So I could easily draw the dash for 11 and 12, and right there's 12. And the two we're missing is just 9 and negative 6. Now, Ms. Hyder gave a really good demonstration for negative 5. Notice how hers is directly between negative 4 and negative 6. So let's say I'm trying to plot 1, but I'm on the 2 number line. Like right here I have 0. It means that 1 is between them, but it's not just anywhere between, it's actually perfectly in between 0 and 1, because that's the distance. 1 is 1 away from 0, and also 1 away from 2. So that's where number 1 goes. For all these that are in between, you should label them super clearly on your paper. Make it obvious to yourself and to us what those values represent. We're going to go ahead and label the rest of the 2 number line. Watch Ms. Hyder plot negative 15.
So on the 2 scale, I can see that negative 15 is not going to have its perfect dash. But again, I know that it's just smaller than negative 14 and just bigger than negative 16. So it's going to fall directly in the middle. So here we have negative 15. And do a quick check. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. We've done it correctly.
Similar for 9. If here's 8, here's 10. 9 is going to be perfectly in between 9 and 10.
Negative 6, it's really nice, it's even, so it's going to fall directly on this dash.
As is 12. Now we're getting into the 3s, and this is where it gets even more complicated, okay? Let's really take a second and go through number negative 5, and where that's going to go very intentionally.
Okay, so right now I know that from this dash at 0 to this dash at negative 3, there should be 2 numbers that lie in between. Those 2 numbers are negative 1, negative 2, and negative 3. And notice I'm trying my best, I'm actually going to redo that, I can do a little bit better, to make this distance the same away from here and away from here. So we're dividing this one segment into 3 even spaces. So this would be negative 1, it's a little small. This would be negative 2, and then we have negative 3. Since we go from negative 3 to negative 6, I know that there are integers, or whole numbers in between these 2 values. So we have negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, and then finally negative 6. So negative 5 will be right here.
Now, Ms. Hyder, let's say I was trying to plot 8. Okay, I was trying to plot 8. And I know it's between 6 and 9, so I said, okay, right here, I plot it and I just say 8.
Wow, Mr. Riggs, I would have a problem with that, just because I know there's 3 spots, or 3 leaps to get to 9. So I would ask you, is 8 closer to 6, or is 8 closer to 9?
Well, 8's definitely closer to 9. And so I'm looking at my work, I feel like I put 8 probably too close to 6. So I need to erase this and I need to try again. So if here's 6, just like Ms. Hyder showed, it should be 3 even leaps. So right here would be 7. And right here, that makes more sense. This is going to be where 8 goes. Because 8, you can see now, make that dot a little bigger. It's definitely closer to 9 than it is to 6. Feel free to pause the video now. We're going to quickly plot the rest of the points. We'll go in order from 1 all the way to 12. See if you can pause it and then check your work with our finished product.
Or you could say it's your friend Ghost.
It's a ghost? Yeah. So kids, you might notice there's a ghost right at 12 and 16. That's blurring the vision. Don't worry, it can't get you. It's just in a video, so we're good. That's what it's friendly. Yeah, it's like Casper. Bells never stop going. Step 3, so we're just focusing on these last 2 number lines now, okay? Now notice in the directions, you're not just placing these values, you are, but you're also using all of these values. So you have a lot of numbers to place on these 2, but it's because there's actually a lot more space represented because we've actually expanded it out a lot, okay? So let's actually focus on these numbers to start. It gets really tricky now when the scale's a lot bigger, okay? So plotting even -5 is going to take a lot more work if we're starting on this by 4 scale.
Yeah. So now since we're going by 4s, all that means, now that we're used to the other ones, it means that from 0 to -4, and every segment here is actually split up into 4 pieces. So just to double check my work, I know that this would be -1, -2, -3, and then that's perfect, we land at -4. I'm going to split this into half, and then another half, so now I have -4, -5, -6, -7, -8, and I'm going to plot -5 right there. And I will label it as well. So we all should be good.
And notice how close it is to -4. As the scale gets bigger, those numbers that are close seem to be even closer to the actual dash numbers. And look at 1, very similar thing. There are 4 parts I can split this into. So right here, this is going to be where 1 is more or less. We have 1, this will be 1, 2, 3, and then we're at 4. So this point right here, that's 1. Okay? The -2 is a little bit easier.
It's easier because we know that to 0 to -4, right halfway between those numbers, we'll land at -2. So it's a nice even number that lands in between 0 and 4.
-10, similar. It's a nice easy one because, again, -10 is 2 away from -8. It's also 2 away from -12. So it goes right in between. It's an even split of those values. 8 simple in this because it actually is right on that dash. 0, still very easy. And -15, again, that's a little bit tricky.
Yeah. I know it's going to be really close to -16, so now that I'm getting the hang of this, I know it's going to be probably right there, but just to double check my work, halfway from 12 to 16 would be 14, and then halfway from 14 to 16 would be -15, just another way to look at it.
We're going to continue to plot these and also these on this 4th number line. Feel free to pause and do it ahead of us and see. You can just check your work, or you can follow along as we do it together. Okay? 9. Right here at 30 out here. 30 is perfectly in between 28 and 32. 40. And 25 is going to be really, really close.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Riggs, are we doing this one as well right now?
Yeah.
Oh.
Again, this part might be kind of glared off. Luckily, we don't have numbers to plot there right now. Should have 25 really close to 24. And then 9 really close to 8, and 30 should be right between 28 and 32. And make sure you look at the negative side, make sure your numbers are perfectly where they should be. Now, same process for the 5 number line. Okay, we'll take the first one, it's a little slow. I'm going to focus on the number 8. And this height is going to work on a -2, because those are going to be the tougher ones to plot. Okay? With 8, again, now we have spacing by 5. So now we got to split it into 5 parts. I'm going to do this really carefully. So right there I have 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10. If I actually were to extend those, I would have 5 equal spaces in between 5 and 10, because there are 5 integers. So
Can I mention one thing, Mr.
Go
Riggs?
for it.
One thing that used to confuse me is I would try to make 5 dashes in between, because we hear, oh, there are 5 numbers, and we just made 5 dashes. But we're looking to make 4 dashes, so right in between, there's actually 5 spaces. So don't get thrown off by the dashes. Don't just go immediately for the 5.
Awesome. Thank you, Ms. Ivor.
Yeah.
So now we have 6, 7, and then that's where 8 is going to be. Notice 8 is not, and it's tough because it's a small space, but 8 is not perfectly in between. It's a little closer to 10, but only a little bit so. So right here we have 8, we kept going to be 9, and then the big line is 10.
Yeah. And similarly, that's what makes -2 a little challenging. I'm going to go ahead and make my dashes so I'm as accurate as I can be. And now, again, we have -1, -2, -3, -4, and then we have -5. And it's not at the halfway point because the average would be 0, between 0 and -5 would be 2.5. So it would be right before, a little bit closer to 0.
Yeah, and keep that in mind, so like, if we're actually exactly halfway, like Ms. Hatter said, it would be -2.5, but that's not where we're trying to plot that point. We're going to go ahead and plot the rest of these. We'll do a little bit of conversation, but try to follow along. And again, you can pause now, and then just put it all up there, and then check your work quickly.
-5, -10. Ooh, the ones that go by 5s are so nice and easy on this number line.
On 30 is really easy to plot. As is 40. 25, I got all the easy ones this time.
Oh man, oh no. There we go, here's an easy one, -40.
Before you guys flip the page, Ms. Hyman brought up a really important point, which is why would we ever number by different scales? Like, why would it be useful to go by 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, or 5s? And it really depends on the situation. Let's say you had a business and you're trying to actually represent the profit you had made last month. Well, if you had made $800 in profit, why in the world would you number by 1s? Like, we would actually go in all the way around the classroom, and even then we wouldn't be able to represent profit. And it's not fair to be like, well, okay, I'm just 800 out there, because that's not a fair scale. Like, we know it's not going to be there that quickly. But instead of maybe labeling by 1s or even 5s here, maybe now's the time to be a little more logical. And this could be going by 100s. That's 100, 200, so on and so forth. And now we can much more easily represent, okay, that's 800 profit. Or if it was 750, it's still right between 700 and 800. That's the idea of like why we might use a different scale. It depends on the situation.
And when we're estimating, when Mr. Riggs said it's 700 and 800, 750 has to be right in between, he's making a really good guess, right? This one's a little easier. But just when you are estimating, if you have 701, to put it out here, really think about that. We're not going to go into that too much, but just think about why it would be inaccurate if that was right there.
Now we're going into like the last part of our guided notes. These last pages will be a whole lot quicker. A key point is when comparing negative numbers, the numbers closer to 0 are actually bigger, okay? So let's think about money for a second, okay? If you have negative money, that's unfortunate, you owe somebody money. But at the same time, there still are better negative values to have than others. If I had negative 100 or negative 5, pause for a second. What would I rather have? Well, I owe somebody money, but I'd rather owe somebody $5, obviously, than $100. That's the idea of, if we're just dealing with negatives, as we approach 0 on that number line, the closer to 0 you are, the bigger value you are when you're just talking about and comparing negatives.
Mm-hmm. And another way to look at greater is, you can always question yourself, who has more money? Right? So greater or more, or however you want to use it, change up the vocabulary to make it best fit you.
So now let's apply that same principle here. We have all negative values, so there's 2 ways we can think about it, okay? We can just know that if it's a larger negative, it's actually a smaller value. So I would start with negative 22, that's going to be the smallest There's one thing I should have done more carefully. It says from least to greatest. Be careful to read that. Sometimes it's from greatest to least. Once I use a number, I like to cross through it so I don't double count it. Now I'm going to negative 10, thinking the whole time about, okay, what's the smallest? What amount of money do I not want to have? And lastly, negative 3.
And over here, I'm just drawing a number line because sometimes it helps me to actually visualize the number line. So I can see here's 0, and negative 22 is clearly furthest away to the left.
Really quick, you should pause here. I'm going to do this very quickly. You're ready to check your answer. Now 0, when comparing negative, 0 is the largest value. If you had no money, that's still better than owing somebody money. Now, next key point, when comparing positive and negative numbers, order the negative numbers first. The idea is like, let's take care of that, knowing that we know how to compare negatives, and we always know that positives will be bigger values than any negative number could be. So from here, I'm going to underline just to identify the negative ones first, and order those to start with. So I have negative 11, negative 6, and then negative 3. Now that I've ordered those correctly, the rest are really easy. You all know how to compare positive values. You've been doing that for the majority of your educational career. 0 is going to be our next value. Then we're finally making money. We have $11, and then $40.
Mr. Riggs, can I borrow $40? Okay, we'd like you to try this set of problems on page 10 on your own, and then go ahead and flip to the next page. And Mr. Riggs is going to explain this awesome activity.
So this is just a little bit of extra practice, and it should be fun. The idea is to kind of answer this question, why shouldn't you let a doctor put one of those sticks in your mouth? I'm not sure if you've actually had a tongue depressor in your mouth. It's super unpleasant. I don't think anybody's had fun doing that. But the idea is, whatever you answer down at the bottom of your riddle should be kind of like a pun to answer that question. So the idea is we're comparing these values. So we have, I'm actually going to zoom out for a second so we can see the whole thing. So right here we're comparing 8 and negative 3. Well, 8 is a larger value. So I'm going to put the arrow facing that way to indicate 8 is bigger. And then that gives me this as my answer for the first one. That's saying 6.
Because you're looking at these two right here.
So if I look down here in box 6, I'm going to put the letter O. For 2, 4 is greater than negative 9. I'm looking at these two, but it matches that symbol. So in box 28, I'm putting the letter E. And now we have negative 6 compared to 1. Well, 1 is a larger value, 1 is more than negative 6. So now I'm circling this one. And in box 15, I'm putting W. If you get some kind of answer that makes no sense, it just means somewhere along here you made a mistake. So go find your mistake. But this answer should answer the question of, it should be a pun. I think it's going to be hilarious. I hope you do too. See you guys tomorrow.